I'm a stranger, all willing and able to do what you want. You think I'm a thing.
Good morning, guys. Smarter Options. Ice King here. I've done a video in a while, so looking forward to getting back into this. So I created this setup just for you guys. Okay. This uses some things that I use to trade. But I'm gonna go over this stuff and kind of show you, and I'm gonna go over a couple of dark night trades here recently, so that I can kind of show you guys, what to look for when you're not sure if you want to take a trade or not, or if you guys want to take your own trades, right? This setup should help you. Okay, so let's just start by looking at Apple here. All right, so a couple things. One, these are support and resistance lines. Okay, they go so many candles back. So if we were to rewind this, right? So up here, say there's no support and resistance lines. If we were to rewind this, though, the support and resistance lines would be different. Okay, it's looking at whatever, based on whatever time frame you're on, it's looking at that chart to figure out support and resistance lines. All right, so it is dynamic. So if you break out a range, it may, so like say like yesterday when the SPY like just crashed, right? It dipped out of the range, so you would be blind for a little bit until it finds a new support, and then it would draw it out for you. When they are green, it will act as support. When it is red, it will act as resistance. So once it fails, right? So this was green. If we go back here, just to like right here, okay, you can see that here it was starting to break above, so it started to turn green. Okay, once it didn't hold, it turned red again. So it will change for you. Here you can see this is a support. Okay, now let's just take a look here real quick. I just want to show you what happens. Oops. All right. So as it turned that one red, but as it fell, right, now you can use these indicators to determine if a support or resistance is going to hold. So here's a MACD. All right, this is a traditional MACD, but it also has that white line as a leader. So it will react with near zero lag. MACD by, normal standards has a lag to it. Okay, it's one of the reasons it doesn't work that great alone. But with the zero lag leader, it gives you an indication of what the momentum's doing right now. So as we hit this support, you can see that this resistance, you can see the leader was already getting shoved down. Okay, and then it crossed over, and this would have been a good point to short, which I think Dark Knight did yesterday. Okay, but this would have been a point to short. Then it's coming down to a support, and as these cross, so this zero line will also act as your support. The zero line is literally right here, it represents zero, right? But whenever you're trading, whenever the MACD is below, it's in a downtrend. Whenever it's above, it's an uptrend. Told you guys this before. Okay, but anyway, so as it was hitting right here, if I was in a short from right here, because I saw that it was, like I said, it was getting pushed down, and you could do a stop loss, right? You could have looked back here and you could have looked and said, okay, if it gets to 173, or a few dollars above, whatever, if it gets past 173, so let's say you set like 174 as your stop loss. If it gets past, you can see there was another resistance right here, but you could have had to put a stop loss there. But like I said, it looked like this was going down. Now this right here, this is linear regression trend. All right. And this is a little bit confusing. So you might have to watch this video a couple times, okay? But the columns here, this is the near-term trend, and the line is a longer-term trend, which goes back about twice as far. So I think I have the near-term trend set like at 20 bars, and I think I have this set like at 38. You could set this a little bit further if you wanted to. I think recommended like 50 or something like that, but I changed it up a little bit so it reacts just a little bit quicker. Okay, when it is going up, this also looks at volume. And so it gives you buying pressure and selling pressure, okay? So if it's bright green like this, that means that the buying volume is heavier than the selling volume, and it's in an uptrend. Okay, the near term's in an uptrend, and you can see it right here. Then, as this crossed, and you can see this bright blue, that bright blue is the same thing. It means that on the longer term, that buying pressure is heavier. Okay. Now, in the short term, when it turns dark green, that means that the buying volume or buying pressure is no longer great enough to sustain the uptrend. Okay, so once again, as we got to right here is this resistance, right? We could have waited to short this a minute, but we saw the near-term trend was already wearing out. I mean, even though it's an uptrend, the buying pressure in the near term was not great enough to sustain the uptrend. And then it turned, and the same thing happened on the longer trend. Buying pressure was no longer there. So that would have given us the indication that this resistance was going to hold. Another thing, you can see that the MACD zero line or MACD leader was heading down and below zero. These are all indications of that this resistance was going to hold. This has been a good place to short. Okay. Once again, we got down to here, and the MACD was going below. The leader was coming up a little bit, right? But it wasn't above the zero line. So that helps you show the strength of the move. Okay. It wasn't rocketing up above like this one was. It was still below that zero line and struggling. You could have also seen down here when it first hit this resistance, right, that selling pressure was heavy. Good indications that this support was going to fail. Okay. Same thing right here. We had indications this was going to hold, and now we have indications right here that this is going to fail. And if we play it out, that's exactly what happened. It failed, and then it just kept failing, or it failed, and then it. You can see how it went dark. That means that the selling pressure was not enough to sustain, so that support was holding temporarily. This was also crossing up. Now, I'm not sure it's going to hold, okay, but you would have watched this closely right here and waited to see what happens. This also could have been an indicator, right? There's no strong buying move here, so what you could have gotten was, if anything, just a short bounce to this, where this resistance would then hold, and then it would go down lower. Okay, and we've seen that. See how it bounced in here several times before getting the strength to break out. And you can see here, that white line here never had a big move up until right here. And so that white line, that leader shows you is the strength of the move, right? I mean, so when it's just hovering around right at the zero line, that also represents that there's not a lot of buying pressure, that it doesn't have a lot of strength to the move, to the momentum, okay? Let's go look at Adobe real quick, because Dark Knight took that on the 19th, right here. So same thing. So we had an uptrend, and right here, volume was wearing out on both. Okay. So it looked like this support, it broke through the resistance, but then it wasn't going to probably hold as a support. Okay. That's when, and same thing, leader was coming down, MACD was coming down. Good indication that this support was no longer going to hold. Dark Knight took a put right in here, and some of you guys probably panicked because it got a jump up at open the next day, or maybe that was at close. Let's see here, nope, that was at open, right? But it instantly came back down. Here we broke out of this trend. I held this play through this move just because, once again, actually, I mean, this was bright orange. So actually, there was, on the longer term trend, there was more selling pressure right here. Even though there was buying pressure in the short term, longer term was showing more buying pressure or selling pressure short term. So that was just showing that was this move, right? But it wasn't going to be sustainable. Then it hovered right there, and it went back down. Also, my MACD was starting to struggle right there. Like I said, no real strong moves, and sure enough, it came lower. I was targeted this at for about 420. I was waiting for a bounce because that's where it rallied previously to this. So I sold my call or my put out a little bit ahead of Dark Knight. I sold mine at like $8 or $8.50 yesterday. but I had his play, and I think his last trim was at 1150 or something like that. Okay, let's look at. Is there anything else you guys want to look at? Please feel free to write in the comments. Anybody that wants to go over anything. Go look at Chewy. See, here's one that's broken down. So see how there's no. I mean, there is some support back here. You can see. However, that is too far back because that was back on March 15th. That is too far back for these indicators it's not going to use that as support and resistance. Now we could go into my settings if you guys wanted to, okay? And you can kind of go change some of the stuff, how far back it looks, maximum number of pivots, source, minimum length, strength, maximum number of SR, right? You can change all this stuff. But it is going to wait now until this becomes a new verified support, and then it would draw a new line for you guys, okay? Right now, I would need to, which you could always pull back to a bigger chart, right? Let's go to the 1 hour. Nope, nothing on the 1 hour. 2 hour. There we go. So on the 2 hour, that's far enough. That's, because like I said, it's looking at so many candles back. So now we're on a place where it can go back far enough, and now it shows that this is a support. Okay. On the 2 hour chart, if this bounces, but so far, we're not getting a big strong move here, right? And into the close yesterday, the selling pressure was still heavy, which Amina said that too, right? Amina said selling pressure was heavy. Yes, these are free indicators, and I just shared them into the Discord underneath the. So I didn't just share the indicators; I shared the whole setup. So what I did was I posted. I took this and I pasted it for you guys. So what you'll do is you'll copy that web address, which is in. So you copy the web address that I posted in the Discord under live streams, and then you'll go to. So you'll open it up. You'll log into your TradingView. You open it up. You'll go up here and you'll hit Save Layout, and then it will become your layout, and you'll have these indicators. But yes, I did include these. These are indicators I've worked on and created for you guys. So please feel free to use them for your trading. All right. But like I said, this is all just to help you guys. Some of you guys, and I'm not, everybody does it, but I held Dark Knight's call even though it was down like 50% at one point. I held through it because I liked the outlook still. It was still going the way that, it was going predictably the way we wanted it to go. Okay. We had all the indications that it was going to work out, I guess I should say. Let's look at Disney real quick. This is the 2 hour chart. But whether you're on the 2 hour chart, okay, which I think, let me just set this to the chart. Yeah, that was already set the chart. Okay. So, same thing like right here. Okay. We came down and we hit this support. Now, this one's a little bit confusing because it looks like here the selling pressure was still pretty strong, but it did get a bounce. The MACD leader gave you that indicator right here that it got a sharp uptick right here. And it was getting a pretty strong move up. Okay. But really in the scheme of things, see, this broke the downtrend right here. It was in a downtrend. It kind of broke into an uptrend, which you can see right here. Hover around, barely broke into an uptrend, and then right back into a downtrend. Tried to break in. I mean, this is what's really wrong with this market, guys. I mean, look how choppy this has been over. I mean, back to November, this thing has just been choppy as hell. So it's a tough market right now. This probably isn't the best indicator for the 2 hour chart. Like I said, 10, 15 minutes is great, especially for the calls that it depends on how long you're out, right? I mean, if you're doing leaps, then I would use the 2 hour chart. If you're doing weeklies or a couple weeks out, I'd use like the 15, 10, 15. And like I said, all these lines are going to change based on the time frame you have because it's going to find different support and resistance based on those time frames. But you can see here, like I said, it hit right here. right? It hit this resistance, got an instant push down on the MACD leader, which then we can see the MACD was really struggling here. It did get a brief rip up, and then it finally failed. But like right here, we ripped up, and then we came down to this support. Very easy to tell here that support was not going to hold. Okay, then we got down to the next support. It did hold, but then came back again, and easy to tell it was going to fail. Okay. I said, guys, this isn't 100% exact science. This is just to help you guys. It just gives you indications of what's going to happen. You might have already covered this, but does the time frame you're looking at determine the time you want to hold an option? Yeah, exactly. So 1+ hour for leaps, yes. That's absolutely right, Beatish. And then 5-minute tends to work really quick for me. So I used to use the 5-minute chart when I day traded. Okay. And I'm talking about day trading. I'm talking about in and out, sometimes in minutes. If you're going to be doing intraday trading, I'd still recommend the 10 or 15-minute chart. 5 just gets to be, it can change too quick. And when you're looking back at only, like I said, so this is set right now at 20 and 38 for how far back it's looking for the long and short trends. If you think about that with 5 minutes, that doesn't really give you much. I mean, that can change so fast, right? But if you're going to scalp throughout the day, I mean, you can see right here, this got range bound between these 2 points for half the day on this drop. You could have bought puts here, calls here, puts here. And if you would have put a call here, on this breakdown, which, like I said, I wouldn't have bought a call right here just because we were showing some signs of failure. I mean, it wasn't like a real strong move, right? But still showing that it looks like that support was weak to hold at best. So I wouldn't have bought a call here. That's just me, but I just wouldn't have. And I'm not even sure I would have bought a call here because it was showing a lot of pressure. But if you buy a put here, okay, you can have this be your stop loss. So buy a put here, this line would be your stop loss. If it breaks above that, you're in trouble. But a pull back up to this for a resistance test isn't so bad. And sure enough, you could have bought a put right here, on April 20th. The next day you would have been down, or later that day, whatever, you would have been down. But ultimately you would have been a winner. 124, you had a $2 loss there, but you got a $3 gain. So the win-loss ratio is still better than nothing. Let's go look at Amazon real quick. Some of those higher density stocks work really good with this stuff. And once again, we're going to go 10-minute chart. Okay. But yeah, look, we hit, so on April 19th, that was what, Monday? No, Tuesday. So Tuesday we hit this. This would have been a great place to short. You can see that as we hit this, and you can go back, you don't need these lines, right? They just make it's just easier than drawing them yourself. That's all this thing is doing. It's going back, my indicator's going back and finding these support levels for you, support resistance levels. Okay, so from this right here, it found it, and it labeled it out for you. So, but you could see right here that this gave you every indication that resistance was not going to hold, or that resistance was going to hold, I'm sorry, as a resistance. It was going to get denied right here. And sure enough, the next day it got shoved down. Okay, this also gave you an indication that this support was not going to hold. Now, even though it got a bounce, it did not hold, and it ended up failing big time. Okay, but you guys can use this stuff to help your trades. Go back. It looks easy when you look at one or two, right? But in the moment, it gets tough. What you really need to do is just look at as many charts as you can and just keep looking. And try and, look at something and predict what it's going to do. Just start practicing. Just say, okay, I looked at this. I think Amazon's going to fail hard this week. Okay. And sure enough, you would have nailed it. Now, if you would have thought this was going to break out, that's what I mean. If you're just kind of learning, you could have said, I think this is going to break upward. You would have been wrong, but you could have just tried it, right? Look at this spot right here. It's hitting this resistance line. But look, we had every indication that that resistance was not going to hold. We were going to get a breakout. I mean, it's right here, guys. On both these indicators, it's showing us play as day that this was going to break out. And you could have caught, you know, from 3,000 up to, you could have caught a 150-point move on Amazon in a matter of one day. That would have paid out very well for a weekly. Let's look at Tesla real quick, see if we can see that, what happened there. So Tesla right here, look, here we are hitting a resistance, and we had every indicator that, I mean, selling pressure came up. We were heading down already, right? We had every indication that that resistance was going to hold and that this support was going to fail. Okay. Now, the only thing you couldn't have got, because this gap up happened, is you couldn't have guessed this pop up was going to happen, but that was an earnings issue. Okay. But then on this downturn, you know, you could have known that this support wasn't going to hold. Okay, right? I mean, that was, the selling pressure was just so high. You can see that the buying pressure was not there to maintain the uptrend, and so you could have even bought a put right here at 1,030, and got a 35-point drop on Amazon in the course, or on Tesla in the course of 30-40 minutes. You guys have any other questions or anything else you guys want to look at this week? We can look at SPY real quick. I mean, this works with everything. Oops, sorry about that. I had a fib drawn in this chart. Let me just delete that. Okay. So same thing. I mean, if you're wondering where the SPY was going to go, right? As it started plummeting down and failing right here. Okay. So this had a gap up. I'm not sure if you would have bought a put here necessarily, right? But as soon as it came back down to this support, absolutely. Puts all day as of, 2 hours into open yesterday. I'm at Central Time, so 10:30 Central. You could have bought puts on at 446, and by the end of the day, been at 436. I mean, you could have had a 10-point drop on SPY in one day right there. Yeah, which futures do you want to look at? Type them out there real quick for me. GC, CL. What about commodity futures? I don't really trade commodity futures, but we can absolutely go to like SPY futures, right? I mean, it worked for futures. Same thing. So here we came up, right? And here we're sitting at a resistance. Now this broke up right here, but you can see that. So you can see on this, if you zoom in right here, right? So on the short-term trend, which is the bars, it started to get an uptick here, but the long-term trend was still heading down. I had every indication right here that this resistance would hold if it even made it there, and it didn't. Okay, same thing with the MACD, right? Even though it was technically in an uptrend, the leader was below the zero line, which gives you indication of it's not breaking out. There's no strength of move right here, right? I mean, there was no real strength to this move. That was on. So, all right, so hover right here, and then eventually here it started to buy up, and then you got buying pressure on both the short trend and the long trend. Came up. You might have thought it was going to break out right here. You could have bought a call, and then as soon as it flipped and turned right here and started heading down, which is, it did drop down a little bit here, but you could have gotten out of this without much of an issue. Okay. And now here we are, ES, right? So we came down. Here we're hitting this support. You can see that the volume on the long-term trend was not selling pressure. Was a little bit on the short trend, which it did come down to test that support. Bounced, and now though, okay, now on the short trend, we got this little buy right here, right? But the long trend never went positive, and it's turned bright orange. So long term, the selling pressure's back, and you can see that on the short trend, there's no longer enough buying pressure to support the uptrend. Okay, we're also starting to get a move down right here, which gives us early indications that this is probably going to fail. Now that could change here at open because we are pre-market right now, but But right now, this is giving early indications of potential failure. Not a lot of strength to this move yet. You can see that, but it's starting to get there. I mean, it's starting to get some selling pressure coming along. MCL, let me go check out MCL. Yeah, same thing, right? We came up and we hit this resistance. You can see by the dark color that there was not enough buying pressure to maintain the uptrend on either the short-term or long-term trends, which would have gave you an indication that this resistance was going to hold. And then we got selling pressure. MACD went below the zero line. That would have given you every indication that this was heading downwards. Okay. All right, guys, I'll be available in the room. I got to go get my son up for school. But if you need me, holler at me. I did post this in the chat in live streams. So please feel free to use this and let me know if you have any questions. Everybody have a good day today, and let me know how you guys like this setup.
On track, now we gon' way up. W's as easy as a layup. Working late, stay up, stay up. Counting all the way up. Counting blessings, yeah, you know we pray up, way up, pray up. On track, now we gon' way up, way up. Now we gon' way up, now we going. On track, now we gon' way up, way up.
Order filled.
Yeah, I thought wind advisory. Yeah, we just turned on the weather. I checked his Alexa before I addressed him and said low of 68 today. So right. Okay. I did, yep.